So these bags can be used for any occasion: Halloween, birthdays, Christmas. I even recently used them for a Women's Day get-together type thing that I had at my house, which was so much fun, and that completely inspired me to make this video because it was actually really easy to make them. I thought I'd share it with you. So all of the files and everything that I'm going to be using will be available down in the description. You can follow along with the blog post there as well. And my name is Kelly Rossouw, and let's get cracking. And you can follow this tutorial whether you have a Cricut or a Silhouette machine. I'm going to be using my Cricut, but you can just carry on with the cut steps in Silhouette. Okay, so we are going to be using Silhouette Studio. You only need the free edition, so don't stress if you don't have any of the licenses. And it's super easy stuff that you'd need to do. And if you do want kind of a more in-depth beginner's tutorial, I will leave a link up there to a very old video that I made, but it'll cover all of the basics that you'll need to know. So don't stress about it. And this project was completely inspired by Stephanie Paxman. She did an incredible tutorial at the Cricut Craft Fest last year. So a huge thanks to Stephanie for letting me adjust this file and create something 100% inspired by her. I will leave a link down to her video as well as her channel down in the description. Thank you again. I'm so excited. Now for this project, I'm using 115 GSM single-sided photo paper. So it's glossy only on the one side and then matte on the other. It's not too heavy, but if you want a slightly heavier paper, you absolutely can. I find that the 115 GSM works really nicely, gives enough, oh, frayedness. Kim, always. Kim. Let's just let him do his thing while we carry on. Where was I? Yes, I find that the single-sided photo glossy paper gives enough sturdiness to the project so that you don't have to worry about it like flopping around or something. But if you find that it doesn't quite work for you, then try something a little bit heavier, maybe a 150 or whatever. You can also use double-sided tape or glue. I find glue just a little bit easier to use, although it doesn't give you quite the same effect, you know, because I'm not trying to work or anything. Are you hungry? Luckily, I come prepared with snacks so he can have a munch while we're busy working. And then, of course, it's kind of offcuts of cardstock for the pull tab support. You're obviously going to need something to put inside your treat bags. I use my Epson EcoTank printer because it's ridiculously efficient on ink, and it prints really good quality images as well. I am going to be using my maker and my scoring wheel just because I find it a better product than the scoring stylus, because the scoring stylus tends to rip, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But let's get started with the project. Now, when you open the design file in Silhouette Studio, this is pretty much what it'll look like. You've got a few different elements. We've got 4 elements to this file, and I'm going to show you what each of them are, just so that you know what we're working with. The first one is this red L. Basically what that is a guide to show you where on the page you shouldn't put any design elements or anything that you want to have printed. So the white file, this one here, shouldn't overlap that red line. Then we've got this little purplish piece, and that is just a reinforcement for the tear tab. And then lastly, we have the little blue box, and the blue box is going to be our pattern. So that's pretty much what we're going to play around with. So I'm just leaving everything exactly where it is and where we found it. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in a pattern to the background so that we can print that out, because we need it printed out on a full page. So you shouldn't have to make any adjustments to any of these basic elements on the page. Unless you want your bag to be a little bit smaller, then you can just click on the bag and drag it a little bit smaller, but you totally don't have to. But you should make sure that all of the elements that are going to be printed are within this gray line. So this is the box that's going to be cut out, and it is within the gray line here on our canvas. That's our print border, which is specified by your printer. So it might change depending on what printer you have and what the area is that the printer is able to print. So make sure that whatever you're going to be cutting or printing is going to be inside of that gray line. And the reason why the blue block is on the outside, because I want to make 100% sure that everything I'm going to be printing is going to be printed. And if the blue block doesn't print, which is going to be our pattern, If a little bit of that doesn't print, that's totally fine. As long as this white section is inside the gray line and is smaller than the pattern on the outside or the blue block, then that's totally fine. If you have any questions or if you have any concerns or problems, let me know down in the comments and I'll do my best to help you. Or make sure that you join the Facebook group so that you can ask me there as well and get maybe some other help, maybe some ideas, share what you've made. I would love to hear from you and to see the kinds of little treat bags that you made. I can't say that word too loudly because my dog is nearby, and every time I say that word, then she perks up and she wants one. So I'm not going to say that because if she hears me, then this is what happens. So in Creative Fabrica, I'm just going to search for Halloween, and it's going to come up with tons of different things that I can find. Now I'm going to click on patterns in the categories sidebar, just so that I can look for the exact patterns that I want. Oh, that one is so cute. Oh my gosh, this is going to be difficult to decide which one I want to choose. Anyway, I think I'm going to go, because I like that pink one right from, and I'm not a pink girly normally, so that's kind of weird. But I'm going to also open up that paper pack and we'll make a few different ones. So I'm going to just download this and save it to my computer. And Solma download the neon one as well. Why not? When that image is open, I'm going to extract it and save it to my computer. And I'm going to do the same for the neon one as well. So once you've saved your design, we're going to open it in front of Silhouette Studio. So Silhouette Studio is going to be behind and our file is going to be open here. Now, all you technically need to do is just click and drag it into the little box. Now you'll notice that it kind of snapped to the template, but then also snapped to the box. Now it depends on where your mouse is, where it's going to drop that pattern. So if you have it here where it's not over a file or anything like that, there's nothing behind it, it's going to just drop the image into Silhouette Studio, which if that happens, it's totally fine. You can just resize it. Really, really not a problem. But I find the easiest way to get this to work is to drag it and drop it in that little box that we have at the back there. You then don't have to worry about stretching the pattern or anything like that. So I'm going to drop it in that little box. And I already have the pattern set up in a way that I like, but just in case your pattern isn't set up and you want to maybe make the pattern a little bit smaller or more detailed, then I'm going to click on the back box. I'm then going to click on the art palette that says fill panel on the right hand side and click on fill pattern tab at the top. Then at the bottom you'll see I've already set up this file so that the scale is relatively low, but if you want to make it bigger you can increase it. If you want to make it smaller you can decrease it. It's totally up to you. I'm going to leave the scale maybe somewhere around there, 25, 26 or so. And then we're going to add in whatever you want to add onto your box. Now the reason why this box is white and slightly see-through is so that we can see where the placement of our elements is going to be. We're going to set it up so that it cuts just like this on the front and then something else on the back as well. So basically all that we're doing is we're using the template in Silhouette Studio as a guide because it needs to print it. So I'm going back to Creative Fabrica, and instead of patterns, I want to look for some Halloween sayings. And I'm going to download one or two of those and then add them into my design too. I'm only going to save the elements that I need. Proceeds to save everything, but anyway. And then just like we did with the pattern, I'm going to choose some ones that I like. So let's just change this to pictures. And I'm going to drag them into Silhouette Studio. Oh, my heart. This totally just fell because it's like teetering on the edge of the TV at the top. And the base is quite concaved. So it just fell and gave me a heart attack. Anyway, So I'm going to drag this into Silhouette Studio, and you'll notice again how when I drag it, it kind of wants to snap to the box. Now I don't want this to snap to the box, so I'm going to move my mouse just over to a section where there is nothing. Ignore the fact that it looks a little weird. That might be, see, it's totally fine. So we're just going to leave that in there. And then I'm also going to add in another one. This little boo one is also adorable, so I'm going to add that in. So we're going for the kind of cutesy Halloween vibe type thing. So now that I have this, I'm going to just make it a little bit smaller. How about if I put this at the bottom of the bag? So when people look at the bottom, it says boo. That's okay. Stroke of genius. Anyway, I'm going to just select the trick or treat bag sign and make it a little bit smaller. If your computer struggles a little bit, it's probably because these files are very high resolution, which is great, but you know, it does kind of puts a little bit of strain on the computer sometimes. So we're going to make it smaller, and I'm going to put it inside those little orange lines. I'm going to come back and fine tune that in a second. I just want to add in something else for the other side. And you can totally add in a bunch of different elements onto this, which I think I'm going to do. Now I've got all of the elements that I want to use. I'm going to just zoom out a little bit so that I can make them all smaller so that I can work with them. Okay, I'm going to select them all and downsize them. Now we kind of start just playing around with our, pictures that we've added in. I'm going to make these ones a little bit smaller because I just want them to be accents here and there. So what I do now is I make sure that my designs fill up the size area of my page, and I'm going to just play around with the pictures that I've added, maybe increase the scale a little bit so that they fit nicely within these orange lines. So I want to make sure that it sits within the orange lines somewhere because that's where it's going to be when it eventually gets cut out. So you can make them as big or as little as you like. It's totally up to you. And once you're done with the design and you're quite happy with where everything is, now keep in mind that these 3 flaps are going to be completely covered. This one is going to be at the bottom, so don't put something on those 3 flaps. But then when you're completely done, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our little outline file type thingy. We're going to move it off to the side because we don't need to print that. We also don't need to print that either. We don't want to print that. So we want to move those 2 files off the side. Now, if you're quite happy with what your design looks like, then you can just go ahead and print. I want a little bit more contrast between the design and the little elements that I've added on as well. So I'm going to click on the background, and I'm going to go back to the fill panel, and I'm just going to decrease or make it a little bit more transparent. You can also add another offset to each of the designs if you want, totally up to you. And now we're going to save our project because just in case, knowing me, I'll probably end up losing it or something. So we're going to save to hard drive. I always save my stuff to the hard drive. So now that it's saved, we're going to go File, Print, and a print preview will pop up. We're going to print again, and then just check the preferences and the settings of your printer. Mine is already set to glossy and it's already set to quality high. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click print because my paper is already in my printer and it's going to initiate the print any second now. There we go. It's going to take a while to print because I've set the quality to high, so BRB. But while we're busy waiting for that to print, let's hop into Cricut Design Space. And on your canvas, we're going to upload image. And you're going to drag in the SVG file that I've shared with you. So we're going to click continue and then upload, and it'll add to the canvas. The dimensions should upload correctly. Every now and then they don't with a different computer. So just check that the file is these dimensions when you upload them into Cricut Design Space, and if not, then change it to be these dimensions. So from here, we're going to make just 2 adjustments. Well, technically 3. We're going to ungroup. I'm then going to come over to the layers panel, and on the one file, I'm going to expand it I'm going to click on the layer that looks like the lines. It's not a color, it just has the lines. Those are the score lines. So we need to change it from basic cut to score. We're going to select both of those layers. So we're going to have just that pink layer and the score lines, and we're going to click attach. So we have two different elements. We've got the little pull tab reinforcer, and we've got the actual box itself. Now I am going to be using my maker purely because I prefer to use the scoring wheel. The scoring stylus, especially on this paper, for some reason it just doesn't work all that lacquer. It actually like tears it a little bit. So maybe if you have a particular type of paper that works better, you might have a little bit more luck than I have had with the scoring stylus. It has made me want to yeet the stylus across the room because it would like tear the paper, and it's literally the last step. It's just so, especially because the pages take so long to print, it is so frustrating for me. It's like lost time. Anyway, so I use the scoring wheel. If you find that you need to use the stylus, may the odds be ever in your favor. You can't change the pressure of the stylus, so if it is tearing up your paper a little bit, I'm sorry. Maybe just score them manually. It's not an overly complicated scoring process, so with any luck you won't have that problem. I hope. Anyway, we're going to click make, and it's going to prompt you to save your project. I urge you to save your project, so click save and then save your project. So we're going to call it tear open top treat bag, and we're going to go save. Our page has now printed and it looks super cute. Can't wait. So we're not going to go on the first page yet because I will cut the pull tabs. I just like to cut a few of them, so I'm just going to jump to the second page. And you'll see that this is what it should look like. Now, make sure that when you are lining things up on your mat, that you make sure that the paper is the same orientation. So just keep that orientation of the page in mind, and we'll go over a few more of the specifics in a second. I'm then going to click continue. It's going to connect to my machine, which is currently off. I never remembered to turn the thing on. Finally connected, and I actually just cut this paper on the copy paper setting, so that'll work perfectly for me. So I'm going to be using my, like I said, my scoring wheel. I'm going to load that in, and I'm then just going to cut the project. So I'm going to be using my light grip mat for this, and like I mentioned, you need to take special care to put the paper on the mat in the correct orientation, and we're going to line it up with the very edge of the mat. So that little white line, I like to put mine just a little bit on the inside of that, so that's fine. And then of course we use my the brayer to make sure that it is stuck onto the mat properly. Now that that's on the mat, we're going to load it into the Cricut and make sure that we are loading our single scoring wheel. And then we can initiate the cut. And when it's done with the cut, it's going to stop, and you're going to need to take out the scoring wheel, put in your fine point blade, and initiate the cut again. And then it's going to start cutting it out, and then we can assemble the bag. And it's done! Check the cut before you remove it. So we're going to lift up the page, and it has cut through, so we can unload it and then assemble the bag. Alright, then as always, we turn our mat over and pull our page away from the mat. Okay, I'm just going to pull the whole page away because there's a couple of areas where it hasn't quite cut all the way through. And pull it away gently, otherwise you're going to tear the perforations, which I just did. But it's okay because there's more than one. So now we're just going to pull the page. So you can see it's cut right there on that edge. And then the bottom one, we were almost unlucky. I mean, there's a tiny little piece there that's on the page, but it's okay. So you can see we've pretty much used the entire page for our bag. And now I'm going to start folding on the score lines. Now I'm folding in because the score lines are facing in. So what this does is it essentially just allows me to fold everything a little bit easier because the paper is pressed in currently, right? If I had to fold this the opposite direction, it wouldn't fold as cleanly or as easily. So I always just start folding it. You see, like if I do this section here, because it's folded that way, if I have to fold it that way, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to see where the line is. Like I can still do it, but it's just easier to go with the page and then just flip it around. So once you've gotten that fold line, it's easier to just then flip into the correct orientation. And you see now how that section is printed out and it's come out perfectly, almost perfectly in the middle. It's okay. All right, so what we do first, we're going to put the little accent tab part on there, which I'm going to cut out quickly. So I'm going to glue this one to the base of the bag before I start folding anything. So I've just got some glue on there, and I'm just going to align it with one of the little tabs. Now I like to fold this in half. Pull up this tab on the side. Alright, so we got that tab folded in, and then I glue on here, and then I lay that down, and then that just lines up beautifully. Okay, next I do the base. Now this is the flap that we're going to have on top, the flap that says boo. So this is the flap that I'm going to have go down first. So that one is going to get the glue. Put that down, and then we're going to flap in those two flaps from the side, trying to keep the shape of the box so that you get everything lined up where it should be. I'm then going to add a little bit more glue to these flaps, especially in the corners, and flap that down. So now the bottom of the bag has boo or your business logo or whatever you want to put there. That's now visible. So what I like to do from here is just take a tool or something and go inside the bag and then just use that to press down the flap. So I'm essentially just taking the pen and then just doing that on the inside just to make sure the base of the bag is secure. Now we add our goodies. And then the tab with the flap, I'm going to put that down first. So I'm going to just fold that over. Going to push the sides in. So obviously this bag is a little bit of a gusset bag. So I'm going to push those sides in. And I'm going to then fold that one over there like that. So that's how it's going to line up. So I'm going to take my glue. Add my glue at the top. So like we said, the reinforced tabs at the bottom, and then we're going to line these two up and glue them together. This one is a little bit trickier to get glued together properly because you can't really press it on anything. It doesn't really have any reinforcement, and that I ripped when I pulled the paper off the mat. So that's me. And then we have our trick or treat bag. So it's now got too cute to spook, trick or treat, and then it's got a little fun thing there and another little hidden ghost right up at the top there, which is quite cute, and the boo at the bottom. And like I said, you can really make these bags for any kind of occasion, and when you want to open them, you just need, or when whoever gets them wants to open them, you just pull up the tab like that. It opens completely cleanly, and then you can pour out whatever it is that you have in your bag. But I do have a playlist of other fun party print then cut videos that you can check out here that will really help you with your parties. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy these kinds of videos. I'll see you next time, and remember, be kind to someone today. See you soon.